Namaha Brahmanya Devaya Govindaya Hitaya Me Pranata Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Bow down to Sri Krishna, who is here to protect the good and grant spirituality to all the seekers of truth. So, good morning to everyone, and glad to meet in the fourth and final session of the retreat on the occasion of Janmastami. So nice to see you all again. The third day, many of you have come the third day, and so many from Dallas and nearby places. And I'm glad that till yesterday we were 2 from Toronto. Today we are 3 from Toronto. So the talk today is the last message of Sri Krishna. Last message of Sri Krishna is called Uddhava Gita. His instruction to Uddhava, great devotee, who, when Sri Krishna was concluding his Leela on this earth, decided to go back to his own abode of Vaikuntha, was very saddened and said, "How will I live without you?" He had a long association with Sri Krishna. So, how can I live without you? It was very difficult. You are my soul. If soul goes, how a person remains, how becomes alive? So that was his question to Sri Krishna. Tell me something that I can live if I live without you. Otherwise, you take me along with you. So that is in the Bhagavatam. And the message, conversation between Krishna and Uddhava is called Uddhava Gita. Like conversation between Arjuna and Sri Krishna is called Bhagavad Gita. So let me talk about the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita. Bhagavad Gita means the song of God, the words of God. Uddhava Gita doesn't mean words of Uddhava. Uddhava Gita means song of God as told to Uddhava. Uddhava is a means. If we have to talk Uddhava Gita, talk to Uddhava, answering Uddhava's question. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita we have to call Arjuna Gita. The message to Arjuna, and through Arjuna to the whole mankind. Partho vatsa sudhir bhokta. Partho is just a calf to induce milking in the cow. But the real drinker are the one who drink milk. So like that, the Sudhi is the real experience, the enjoyer of the Gita. And Partha is just a means to bring out the Gita from the mouth of Parameshwara himself. Uddhava Gita greatly contributes and opens our eyes towards our progress in spirituality via different methods such as satsanga or holy company, yoga, jnana, detachment, discrimination, mukti, bhakti, etc. The special feature of the Uddhava Gita is the simple and sincere spiritual practice instructed by the compassionate Lord Krishna when Uddhava pointed out the difficulty in controlling the mind. As the title Uddhava Gita suggests, Lord Krishna speaks here from the level of the disciple in a language of simplicity, yet deeply penetrating to the seekers, while in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is spoken from its supreme height with no compromise and absolute practicality. Out of numerous Gitas, Bhagavad Gita and the Uddhava Gita are given maximum importance, as both these Gitas have come out of the mouth of Lord Krishna himself, who was verily Brahman absolute. The main difference is that the former, that is the Bhagavad Gita, sung by Bhagavan, has been titled in order to emphasize that the author is Bhagavan Krishna himself, and the subject matter of the Gita is also Bhagavan, who will appear time to time to restore dharma and to protect greater good of society. Here the Lord will force you to act on his behalf without any compromise, just like he convinced Arjuna to participate in a righteous war. That is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Uddhava Gita, the emphasis is on Uddhava, who represents the devotees of God, like us, who seek spiritual progress, who are not satisfied with their awareness, with their mental state, and want to progress, want to make oneself more pure, more devoted to God, more having the knowledge of truth, to know more of who I am, knowledge of the self, devotion and knowledge. We want to get more. We are not satisfied with the stage that we are now. So Uddhava represents that, how to be fully fixed our mind in the truth, in reality, and not deviate with the swinging nature of this ever-changing universe. How to remain steadfast, as it is said, Sthita Prajna in the Gita. Is it possible to be Sthita Prajna? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan part. Can I be free from all the desires? So many desires are there. Sri Krishna says, yes, you can. There is the way. Follow yoga. Follow simple techniques. That is said in the Uddhava Gita. Let us begin the Uddhava Gita. It begins with Krishna's determination that he wants to go back to his abode of Vaikuntha. I have determined, said Krishna, to leave the earth. My kingdom here is established. Whatever he had come for, it is established. Then Uddhava says, how can we live apart from our very soul, that you, O Krishna? It's so terrible to think to live without you. Krishna says, the perceived world is a projection of consciousness. It is transitory. When you have gained knowledge and wisdom, you can feel unity with all embodied beings. That is the sign of wisdom and knowledge. We feel one with all embodied beings. I don't feel myself to be all gaining all the, having all the fancy of life and others deprived. I feel oneness with all. Feeling oneness with all itself a great joy. That's what Sri Krishna says. When you have gained knowledge and wisdom, you can feel unity with all embodied beings. When we feel unity with all beings, there is satisfaction, contentment, and there is peace attained. You will feel there is so much suffering in the world. And do not the illumined souls that feel suffering, they do feel. They feel more intensely than what we feel, because they feel oneness with everyone. With the suffering, they suffer. With the joyful, they feel blessedness. So how is it that the knowledge of oneness with all, be all peaceful, but their suffering is not like ours? Their suffering is feeling the oneness. By that they impart the peace that they have with the suffering humanity. When they suffer with the suffering humanity, that is the food that goes to the people who suffer. That is the blessedness that they get. That's the difference between our suffering, selfish suffering, and their suffering, unselfish suffering. Krishna said, when you know the self and delight in the self, then you are free, knowing our own self. And when we know ourselves, we delight in ourselves. We know, the name of sadhus, like from Kripamayananda, they begin from my own name, Kripamayananda. What it really means, Kripamayananda is not that I do Kripa to all, not that. Kripamayananda is I find joy, or I should find joy. Where? In Kripamaya. Who is Kripamaya? Full of Kripa. None other than the Lord Himself, God Himself. So my focus for delightfulness, for joy, should not be the world and worldly things. Should be God and God alone. Then I become Kripamayananda. Otherwise, I become like any other seeker of worldly things. So every monk's name is somehow connected who finds joy in God. So when we find joy in God, you also become like all our Ananda. Name will be invisibly written, like your name will be all attached with Ananda. You will also find Ananda in God, Brahmananda, Naditananda, or Ishwarananda. That all you will become find joy in divine. That is our goal. Krishna says here that if you know yourself, you will find delight in self alone, and will not seek happiness, joy in anything that is less than the self. And there is no real joy in the world. World is anityam asukham, says Sri Krishna. It is temporary, transitory, and it is without any joy. If you seek joy in the world, it will be wrong search. And if you find the thing that you happen, even you are not satisfied until you find your own self. Uddhava asked, you said to be free, to be spiritual, to find the self. Now please teach me how will I find myself. Krishna said, your self is your teacher. Who is the real teacher? Gospel Sri Ramakrishna says, Satchidananda alone is the Guru. Satchidananda, the reality alone is the Guru. Other Guru just try to manifest, try to take you toward the Satchidananda. Real Guru is Satchidananda, Dakshinamurti. That is the real Guru. As Sri Krishna says, yourself is your teacher. By the self alone is realized the highest good. Self alone. I exist in all beings, but the human heart is my favorite dwelling place. Remember, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Bhakter Hriday Bhagavaner Boitakkhana. In Bengali, that means the dwelling place of God is the heart of the devotees. What is dwelling place? And he explains, like a rich man can have a lot of land, the landowner. He could go to all the places that belongs to him. But where to seek him, where to find him? He is to be found in his drawing room, in his living room mostly. An officer has to be found in the office, so he may visit places. Like the God, if you want to seek God, you have to find where he mostly dwells. Where God dwells? In the heart of the devotee. Though I am present in all, aham atma gulakesha sarva bhutasaya sthita. Every being, the heart of every being, I dwell as the self, but I am manifested more in the heart of the devotee. Krishna continues. Once a Yadu asked an Avadhuta, a wandering and fearless and worry-free realized person, how did you attain your vast wisdom? You remain untouched by the heat of lust and greed. Tell me how you find delight in yourself. The one gentleman asked the Avadhuta, the realized person. Avadhuta replied, I had many teachers. I had no one teacher that gave me mantra, but I gained knowledge from all, everywhere. What are the teachers? He had 24 gurus, 24 teachers. And it is enumerated in the Uddhava Gita also. In the Avadhuta Gita, you will not find 24 gurus there. There is the Avadhuta said about the truth, and he said, what to explain about the truth? World is unreal, self is real, that is all. What is there to explain? It's so evident. Yes, realizing it is so evident. What is there to explain that? But in the Uddhava Gita, we find all 24 gurus of Avadhuta. What are the gurus? Earth, air, ether, water, fire, the moon, the sun. From everything he got some message, something that enriched him. The pigeon, the python, the sea, the moth, the elephant, the bee, the honey gatherer, the deer, the fish, the courtesan pingala, the copra, the child, the osprey, the child, the maiden, the arrow maker, the snake, the spider, and the Brahmarakita, the one special type of insect, which thinks of something and transforms to that. So all these natural beings and natural stages, he gained the knowledge from sky, how to be brought from earth, how to endure the things that happens. And like that, he all like air, how not to be polluted by the thing that we flow through, remain always true. Air never gets polluted. It carries the pollutant, but when the pollutant are removed, air is as it is. So we say polluted air, but only something has mixed. Like that, one should be said. You be with the people, but don't pollute your mind. Be free. Try to get rid of that anytime. And he said, a truly wise man remains quiet and steady in all situations. That is the sign of wise man. Never wavering with the tune of the world. It always wants us to dance on its tune. You are good. I am good. You are bad. Oh, you are bad. Always dancing to the opinion of someone, some words of someone, something someone just said. What about my own opinion about myself? I am not that sky good. I am not that very lowly bad. I am what I am, but God has made me. So not to dance, not to waver, not to swing in the opinion of the world, but remain at a position. That's what a truly wise man remains quiet and steady in all situations. It's the pragya. He purifies all who revere him and who seek his company. We get purification of heart by revering the wise person, the realized person, the saintly person. When we revere them, we touch their feet, we have their company, that purifies our heart. So difficult to purify the heart, but these are the things. The wise man is happy and free from care like a little child, but unlike the child, is happy through knowledge. That's why they are called childlike, not childish. When you say childish, they are child. They don't have true knowledge. They are happy, but wise persons are happy because they are like child, but they have full knowledge of the truth, and they are not attached or they are not afraid of anything of the world. Not afraid. They have attained fearlessness. Krishna said, practice the primary virtues, such how to be pure. That was the question. Practice the primary virtues, such as ahimsa, injuring no one, satya, the truthfulness, asteya, non-covetousness, brahmacharya, chastity, control of the senses, shaucha, purity, swadhyaya, self-study of scriptures, santosha, contentment, and he adds, well, these all we know in the yama and niyama. But Sri Krishna adds one more, practice guru bhakti. You have a teacher, be devoted, keep teacher on the high pedestal, and his grace will flow through the grace of God, will come through the teacher. That's why we revere our teacher so much. Uddhava then prayed, pray Lord, tell me how one may become free. Krishna said, my Maya has the power to bind as well as power to liberate. In Gospel we read Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. That reference comes in with Uddhava Gita. Maya, if it is Avidya Maya, that binds, makes us proud, makes us egotistic. I achieve this, I am this great, I am wise, I am learned, I am wealthy. Nobody is like me, like that thing. That is Avidya Maya. It binds us. And Vidya Maya, I am a devotee of God. I am a person like any other person. God has given me some skill, some intelligence. By that power of God, I could do something in the world. Nothing is mine. It's all being done by God. All the qualities given by God, something has been done. Vidya Maya. Not attached, no pride, but going on serving the people with all full-heartedness. So Vidya Maya liberates, Avidya Maya binds. So Sri Krishna says, trumpet not your own good deeds. Shun hankering for name and fame. Give no words of truth, hospitality and service. Sadhu seva. So that is said the way to become pure. And don't be, in Hindi there is a saying, Neki kar kuye mein dal. Many of those who know Hindi must be knowing. Do something good and all your credit and all your ego you put in the well. Don't think again, I did so much good. Swami Yagananda says a very nice, it's very one beautiful talk. I urge everyone to hear. Wherever I talk, I often refer to that. His name is 4 Simple Exercises. And in that he says, many of you must have heard it in YouTube. And he says, 2 things you should forget and 2 things you should remember. And first he said, what you should forget? You should forget that what bad others have done to you. Forget that. Why? How to forget and why to forget? Because nobody does anything bad to anyone. All this karma, according to karma, all bad that happens to me, insults, all bad that comes to me, is my own earning, my own karma that someone gives. Insulting words, some complaints to the boss, some failure, some other person gets before you, though you feel yourself more qualified than your colleague, and colleague get promotion, and you feel all bad. Nothing is happen without any cause. The cause is your own karma. So bless those who insult you because they brought you to get rid of your karma. Your karma is worked out. So forget what bad others have done to you. What is the next to forget? Forget what good you have done to others. You have done nothing. It was his or her good karma that inspired you to do something for that person. Nothing of yours. It's all given by God and inspired by God. That's why we did that. Forget what bad others have done for you. Forget what good you have done to others. All is the play of karma. Says Swami. Please listen to that talk. Beautifully explained. So what to remember? Two things we have to listen to the talk. So here Sri Krishna says beautifully to Uddhava, to a devotee, repetition of the sacred mantra and righteous conduct are aids to spiritual unfoldment, and so is being in the company of holy. Sadhu Sangha, if you read gospel, Sadhu Sangha, Nirjana, you would say remaining in the quiet place, isolated place, and company of the holy, repeating God's name, singing the glory of God. These are the basic of spiritual practice. And here, Uddhava, Sri Krishna said to Uddhava the same thing, repetition of the sacred mantra, righteous living, and these are the things that make us our spiritual unfoldment, and so being in the company of holy. So company of holy, somebody asked, what happens by company of holy? Since when you have the company of holy, then you realize that God is reality. You then it comes to you always engaged in the world to forget God. Forget God, our own self, our own true self. We forget ourselves and being engaged and diverted and totally get mixed up with the world. So there is a story that one person goes to a monk in the Himalaya and bows down to the monk and says, Mahatmaji was such a great renounce. They have given up everything for the sake of God. They have no attachment to anything in the world. And then after that man rose, then this sadhu bows down to that devotee and says, you are a greater renouncer. I have renounced the world that is not really some substance here for the sake of God. But you have renounced God himself for the sake of unsubstantial world. So you are a greater renouncer. So I should bow down to you. So we forget God, the real basis of our life, the basis of our joy, we forget in that. So how we remember? Sadhu Sangha. Have holy company. Now, holy company also, there are many things. Holy company doesn't mean the person with ochre robes. Sadhu doesn't mean, sadhu, the very word sadhu means good. Any good person is sadhu. So that's why in Shantiniketan, Rabindranath started, and not the clapping after the song is done or poem is recited or beautiful. They all say sadhu, sadhu. Good, good. Rabindranath wanted to establish the university of very Indianness. So he said sadhu, sadhu. That's good. We cheer you. And the clapping is not done. So like that, sadhu means good. Any person is good is sadhu. Otherwise, Girwa, ochre robe wearing person are called sannyasis. Sannyasis, all sannyasis should be sadhu. So sadhu, good person. That's why sadhu and sannyasi became like the same word. So, and sometimes good persons are not found. Good books, good songs, good friends. And someone said, if you go to a holy man and then talk about politics, about the problem, about how to get more money, about your own problem, that is not sadhu sangha. That is not satsang. You have to talk about God, about reality, about the joyful something. That should give you joy. So then it becomes sadhu sangha. If that is true, then we can talk with our friends, neighbors, our family members. When we talk something good, that moment we are having sadhu sangha. Holy company is there. What thing we raise in our mind? Holiness should be raised in mind to our conversation, and then it becomes sadhu sangha, even without having any sannyasi sangha. So that's Sri Krishna so much emphasizes to Arjuna. The ignorant man has not the peace and tranquility which arise from knowing the self, He dwells on the thought of sense pleasure and becomes attached to the senses, compares with the holy man. What should we be? How much we should be careful in the world? So we should not be sense pleasure bound. That is the thing. He who loves tears of joy, he who loves tears of joy flow from his eyes. His heart melts, and he sometimes laughs or dances. Such a devotee is a purifying influence. If you find real lover of God, that person needs a purifying agent, company, association, closeness, thinking about that even purifies. That's why thought of God. Why thought of God purifies? Why meditation on God becomes we feel so good after meditation? Because God is purity. When you think of purity, our mind becomes pure. Association happens, sadhusanga happens. Uddhava said, please teach me how to meditate. Sri Krishna said, sit in an easy posture, sukhasana. Practice pranayama. After sitting, practice, put your hands on your palm, put your hands on your lap, and then practice pranayama for some time. Then meditate on Om, ultimate reality, all pervading truth, never ceasing. That ultimate reality is Om, the highest word, highest name of God. Then said, meditate on Om. Then said, imagine a lotus. After that, with more concretized. Imagine a lotus in the heart, which is drooping down. Heart, lotus drooping down. And then you visualize that lotus through your meditation is turning upwards. And then it blooms. And it has 8 petals and it's red in color or pink in color. And when it blooms, there is the sun and the moon and fire, says Sri Krishna. Sun and the moon for light. You imagine the light there. It's not the dark, close eyes and nothing is dark, but light, sun, light and fire. Then Sri Krishna says, imagine your Ishta within the fire. All illumination, all light, all knowledge, all joy. Darkness doesn't give joy. In Bengali, there's a beautiful song on Mother Kali. It says, Tai jogi dhyan dhare hoye guru giri guhavasi. Nibido adhare mator chamake arupa rashi. Your place, your blissful form shines in the darkness, O Mother. That's why yogis meditate in the caves of the forest. But where they meditate, they don't meditate in darkness. They live in darkness but meditate on the light of the Divine Mother. So we should meditate on. That's why Sri Krishna suggested, see moon and sun and the fire, and keep your Ishta within the fire, blazing, light coming. It's all illumination. See the face of your Ishta clearly as you would have seen through your eyes, says Sri Krishna. How beautifully detailed he describes about the meditation which he doesn't do in the Gita. Gita says you should sit there in the Nat Yutritam, Nat Nicham, Chailajina Kushotaram, like that he says, but he says in detail. Krishna says, I am the goal of the wise and I am the way. There is nothing dearer to him than I, to the wise person. Remember, Jesus also said, I am the way and I am the light and I am the goal. Sri Krishna said many centuries before that, I am the way and I am the goal. All great personalities say the same thing. Jesus was Sri Krishna in his past incarnation. So when he became Jesus, he also spoke the same thing in a different language. Perhaps in Aramaic, perhaps in Hebrew, he spoke that I am the way and I am light. Sri Krishna perhaps spoke in the language prevailing that time, perhaps in Sanskrit, we don't know what was the language at that time. I consider him wise who sees the one self in all. Everyone as my own self. That is the sign and the definition of wise person. Patience is bearing the burden of life cheerfully. Life is burden. It is painful, suffering. But we call it this threshold of pain. How much you can bear the pain. It depends on that. It will depend how cheerful you are. to accept the things as they are. As we grow old, we have to keep in mind, we'll have arthritis, our teeth will fall, skin will shrink, and hairs will become gray, and eyesight will become weak. We'll not be able to listen. That all will come. All accept that gracefully. They call here aging gracefully. Be cheerful in all the changes that come in our life. And one day will come, Swami Tyagananda says, remember that death may come every day. When you come out, think that it is your last day in the world, last day of your life, and then come out and work. Your work will be much better. You have no jealousy, no envy, no greed, because this is the last day. And when you do every day that thing, it will be my last day. One day that thing will become true. One day it will be the last day. We all have one day last day. So no worries for the last day. Last day will come. I saw one video very nice about American, I think she is, on a TED talk. She had the 4th stage of lung cancer. And says, I am so grateful to this life. I enjoyed life. Now I'm happy to go to the grave. I'm happy, done. I don't want to be immortal. She doesn't believe in spirituality. But she believes in life, and life enjoyed. Now it's time to go. The acceptance of the change of body. So that makes one cheerful. You should see her video, how cheerful she is speaking. So to know the truth is to see the oneness of the self with God. God and the Atman are same. God resides in my heart as myself. When I say I, then it's who? God. When I say God, it's who that? My own self. This wise person have that. Work one must, says Sri Krishna, till the heart has become tranquil and free from desires. In the pure heart arise true wisdom. Blessed is human birth, for true wisdom and pure love may be attained by man. So that Shankara said in the Viveka Chudamani. Blessed is the human life, because in this is the possibility we can get wisdom, true wisdom and pure love. One should desire health and strength as a means of serving the Atman and attending to the Supreme Being. So, why should we pray to live longer and healthy life? To attain Atman, to be with the Atman, to serve my fellow human beings, to worship God in every being. That should be the goal of our desire, and pray for the long and healthy life. There should be means and some reason to live longer. So, to summarize what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, he said that dedication of actions should be there. If we cannot do actions prescribed in Yoga Shastras, which will take us to the highest divinity, let us divinize all actions by dedicating them to the Supreme Lord. Even if we have to take a cup of tea, mentally offer it to the Lord, all the while thinking of Him, and then drink the tea as His prasadam. Do all your actions, surrender them all to the Lord, and at the same time, remember the Lord slowly while doing the work. Gradually, your mind will be completely immersed in the Lord, and the mind will derive pleasure in the self and in following the disciplines prescribed for a bhakta called the Bhagavata Dharma. The role of a bhakta, the discipline of a bhakta is called Bhagavata. Remember, Sri Ramakrishna said to Girish Ghosh, you drink, you are the drunkard. So he did, Sri Ramakrishna say, stop drinking. You will not have spirituality when you are so much drunk and forget yourself. How will you remember God when you forget all yourself and everything? You are intoxicated. But he said, oh, drinking is okay, but can you do one thing? Can you offer your drink to Mother Kali before drinking? He said, what is there in our Tantra Shastra? Mother Kali, wine can be offered to Mother Kali. He said, okay, I'll do that. We didn't find anything great to do. But he started offering. First, Mother will drink, then I drink, your prasadam. Slowly, he started filling himself with the thought of the Divine Mother. And his drinking became less, And finally, he is drinking totally gone. He became like a saintly person. All his vices left. Simple Sri Ramakrishna says, offer your drink to Mother Kali. Here it is said, offer everything to God. Sri Ramakrishna once he was offered bitter leaf. Someone had already taken from that plate of bitter leaf. He said, I can't take any more. So the host said, what is there? Someone has taken, he has taken the one piece, others are intact and good. Why don't you take this? He was praising Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna said, before I take something, I offer to Divine Mother. When something has already been taken, the first portion has already been taken, that cannot be offered to Divine Mother. Unless I offer to the Divine Mother, I cannot take the thing. So everything connected with the Divine Mother. So we can do, our life should be settled that way. Do everything first, remember God, and do. In Bengali, there's a nice song. Lord, I go set my foot out to work after doing pranam to you. I go to my work after bowing down to you, O Lord. So, remembering God in every movement of life, every action, every drinking, every talk, then it becomes connection, becomes stronger, heart becomes purified, spirituality becomes reality. What is another Sri Krishna emphasizes is satsanga. One is that offering things to God, another is satsanga. Periodically, one should go into solitude or pilgrimage, and if possible, reside in holy places where saints and devotees of the Lord abound and practice the disciplines followed by the bhaktas. One can also do japa, puja, prayers, and sing the names of the Lord. And a spiritual aspirant should also develop compassion and magnanimity by emulating other sincere bhaktas of the Lord. Wonderful. That comes no competition, no jealousy, but you feel you are being supported by someone. You find, oh, that person does 1 hour japa. I should also try that way. That person does so much for the temple. I should also do something. So by imitating the acts of the bhakta, we become holy. And this satsanga, holy company, is so important. Swami Brahmananda also used to say, when you go to some places, beautiful scenery, quite nice mountains and the lake, don't just see that thing as beauty of the nature. Rather, your mind has become tranquil and happy by seeing the nature's beauty. Then sit down in a corner, if possible. Close your eyes and try to remember God, the master of all beauty, the origin of all beauty. Ati Sundaram, the God is the most beautiful person. That's what we call about Sri Krishna. Most charming, most attractive personality. Like that, try to do that, says Swami Brahmananda also, what Sri Krishna said to Uddhava here. Celebrations of festivals. One should celebrate, Sri Krishna says, the various seasonal festivals relating to the Lord. Any festival that we should, that is also a part of that we celebrating Janmastami today. Like that, celebrating festivals is a part of spirituality. That will gradually make our hearts pure and we gain spiritually strengthened. The next is seeing the Lord in all and equal vision. Next to satsanga, this is the most important and effective sadhana. When we meet people, immediately a mental classification takes place that he is good, he is bad, he is my enemy, etc. And it disturbs the mind. If we are to consider that the same Supreme Lord is seated in the heart of all of us as our very self, and thus consider them to be the various forms assumed by one and the same Lord, then we will treat all with love and the mind will be at peace. As declared also in Ishavasya Upanishad, when one sees the same self residing in all beings and in his heart, there will be no more sorrow or division. As complementary, he has an equal vision. He treats alike a Brahmin or an untouchable or a thief, the sun and a small spark of fire, this compassionate and the cruel, as he sees only the God who resides in them all. In such a person of equal vision, seeing the one divinity in all, his ego, spirit of competition, cavilling at others, contempt, etc., will all vanish. Krishna considers this sadhana of seeing the Supreme Lord in all beings as the best means for attaining God realization. Krishna concludes his discourse thus: I have now told you a summary of the entire knowledge of Brahma Vidya. The one who hears this Uddhava Gita daily with faith and a concentrated mind will get transcendental bhakti and will be released from all the bondage of karma. When a man, after having renounced all activities, has completely surrendered himself to me, he gets immortality and is transformed into my own form on account of his having merged in me. At the bidding of Lord Krishna to go to Badri forest and to live there practicing the disciplines as instructed by him, Uddhava, after having prostrated to Krishna time and again, reluctantly leaves for Badrikashrama. That is what the Uddhava Gita concludes there. What to do, how to do, Sri Krishna tells in detail. How should a devotee live? Now, this is the last message of the Bhagavad Gita is that there have been last message by Sri Ramakrishna. What is Sri Ramakrishna's last message? He said one of the most prominent and important last messages of Sri Ramakrishna to Narendranath was from Narendranath. One who was Krishna, who was Rama, is at this time Ramakrishna. So, as Brahmananda said yesterday in the reading, that he says to other monks in there, he said, Sri Ramakrishna is real. He is God, Supreme God incarnate. Don't have any doubt about that. At the last moment he said those things. Like that, Sri Ramakrishna said that who was Rama, who was Krishna, is Ramakrishna. So what was the Swami Vivekananda's last message? His last message was go and meditate. And when I call you, then come. He will call in the heart. Now you have meditated enough. Don't be deviated. I am there to see you. That was his last message to the brahmachari who was looking after Swami Vivekananda. So the Swami Vivekananda didn't call personally, but his message through his soul when he came back and saw Swami Vivekananda lying there. Like that, in the last message of Holy Mother, we all know, so beautiful last message and last most prominent and most important message containing all the Vedanta. Is the Vedanta Sara, there is a book, Vedanta Sara. But Vedanta Sara, it could be simplified. Practical Vedanta is the Holy Mother's last message. That if you want peace of mind, my child, don't find fault with others. Don't be judgmental. Don't judge others. Don't find fault with others. Rather, find your own faults. You have a lot of faults and defects. You have to rectify that. No one is a stranger, my child. The whole world is your own. And try to make the whole world your own. That was his message. Seeing the self in all in the world are friendly. What one does something that is I like or dislike, it's very negligible. But the person, we have to love the person as the person is. What is his or her nature? On basing on that nature, if you forget the divine dwelling in that person, we'll be like blindfolded. We cannot really see the God dwelling in all. It is God that dwells in all. When we see God dwelling in all, then the whole world becomes ours. All that dwells in my heart equally dwells in the heart of everyone. So how one behaves, how one walks, how one treats, doesn't matter at all. We can just brush off those things, behavior of others, and see the divine shining in the heart of everyone. On this concluding theme of the talk on the Janmastami, this retreat on Janmastami and Puja, let me tell from the Bhagavad Gita what Sri Krishna tells, who he is, who Sri Krishna is. As Sri Ramakrishna said, who was Krishna, who was Rama, is Sri Ramakrishna at present in present time. So Sri Krishna has also to say who he is. A lot of references there in the Bhagavad Gita, here in the Uddhava Gita. And with this, I can conclude my talk. Sri Krishna says, I am the self in all beings, their friend and benefactor. I am the all. I am the life principle of the living. I am Brahma, the teacher of the Vedas. Of all luminaries, I am the sun. And of grain, I am barley. I am the study of the Vedas. Of devotees, I am yourself, O Uddhava. Of gems, I am the sapphire. I am the lotus bud, kusha grass, and clarified butter. I am the supreme Brahman. Nothing whatever exists without me or beyond me. I am revealed in those who are pure in heart. Control yourself by yourself, the fullness of life. This is Sri Krishna described who he is. Everything that we perceive is God, and more manifested in the pure and holy things like kusha grass or the lotus bud, or shining sun, or the beautiful moon, or the pure air and wonderful Ganga river flowing. It's all God become those. But God, it's all holy and pure things remind us that God is more manifested in that. But God has become everything. As Swami Vivekananda says, God has become the holy and saint. God has become the robber and thief. It's all God is playing in different ways. Different ways of God in this Leela, this Martya Leela, in different ways. As Swami Sri Ramakrishna says, he has made poisonous plants and nectar-like plants. He has made human beings that are so kind and good and also cruel person. But all God has made, God has become all this. So that is the world. It is God revealed. Let us not see the world outside what is there, but let's try to perceive deeper, penetrate our vision into the truth of the people and the things around, and let us perceive Krishna dwelling in them all, God supreme dwelling in them all, and make our life blessed, joyful, and happy, and gain the spiritual truth which we have been seeking from birth after birth, not getting, being born again. This is the time we have gained all the three blessings of God, and let our mind be attached to God and seek God with all full vigor and full attention, and practice spirituality and gain the supreme being. Om Sri Rama Krishna.